Welcome back to Rogers Center. We're pleased to be joined now in the booth by the Hall of Fame writer from the Toronto Sun, Bob Elliott. And Bob, how does that sound? I know it's finally got to sink into you a little bit.
Thanks for having me up here, Bucko. It's a long distance to travel, and it's about 6 steps, but it was a heck of a weekend. It was very, very humbling. Met a lot of very nice people. A lot of friends were there, and family. It was very good.
And you held up all Saturday afternoon when you made your speech, huh?
Yeah, that was a big surprise. We had, I think my daughter told me it was the over/under on cheers was 2 minutes, I think. And no way I would get through talking about my mother or my father without breaking down. Yeah.
No, you did a great job. It was a marvelous speech, and you must be proud when you think about the people. And you got a lot of friends that are in the Hall of Fame, a lot of writers that are in the Hall of Fame, but what impressed you most about the entire experience, about as far as the people you met over the course of that weekend?
Carlton Fisk, he impressed me a lot. I didn't really know him that well. Johnny Bench was awesome, just awesome. I saw him Friday night at the Farmers Market Museum, and he just settled me down for the next day. He said, "Why would you be nervous?" I said, "Well, there's all these people in front of me, all these people behind me, they're Hall of Famers." And he said, "It's going to be the greatest day of your life."
Oh, good for Johnny. That's awesome.
You were telling me before the ball game, we had a couple of minutes to chat downstairs before the ball game, and you were telling me about a person you were talking to, and they were relating about Ron Santo, about that. Can you tell us that quickly?
I told a Ron Santo story about how when I was a kid, 10 years old, 11 years old, I'd cut out the pictures from Sport Magazine. I'd mail the stories off, and I'd say, "You're my favorite player. You play for my favorite team." It was a form letter. I'd send it to like 15 guys, right? So everybody just signed. Most guys would sign them or not even sign them. But Ron Santo wrote, "To my good buddy Bobby, a true Cubs fan, all the best. Your good buddy, Ron Santo." So I told that story, and at the museum afterwards, this lady came up to me and she said, "That was a wonderful story. He always did go the extra mile." So I'm looking at her credential, but it's flipped over, so I don't know who this lady is, and I'm talking to her, and this is nice. And so finally she said, "Did you realize what happened as soon as the story ended?" And I said, "Not really." And then she said, "The church bells started to play." And I said, "I did hear them, but I don't recall exactly when they chimed in." And so eventually he turned it over. It was Ron Santo's daughter. And that was a special moment.
You're going to make me cry.
Well, she messed it up a little bit.
That was really something that Santo would go in, of course, obviously after he's passed away, but after that connection, and you two went in together. I know you ran into my pal George Brett, and he's the epitome of a Hall of Famer, but you got a chance to visit with him a few times too.
Well, we went for dinner, and he kind of sat down, like he didn't see us when we sat down. His back was to me, so I just gave him one of my. So he looked around, he came right over, and I said, "This is going to be great." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "My son wanted to meet one guy on this trip, one person." "Oh, really? Who's that?" I said, "Well, he's standing right here." So anyways, I introduced him and talked, and then he came to the writers' reception on Friday afternoon on the veranda, and then I saw him again, of course, at the ceremonies Saturday and Sunday.
That's awesome. Bob, you were always very proud of writing about Canadian baseball. Of course, Fergie Jenkins was in there. You saw him play as a youngster, and you've been across the country. You were one of the first guys that ever recognized Joey Votto and had a chance. And what was your connection, and why were you so concerned about elevating the awareness of Canadian baseball players across Canada?
Well, I think, Buck, during the winter, I really didn't have anything to do, so there wasn't any ball games to go to, so I'd go to these indoor hitting facilities, and we'd go out and go for a bite to eat afterwards and tell lies and tell a few laughs, have a few laughs, rather, and I'd see how hard these kids worked, and they weren't getting any recognition, like a hockey player or whatever. So I just thought it was a untapped market, I guess. So I kept writing. But I remember Joey Votto emailing me in grade 12, and he wanted to go to a showcase. I don't know if it was a Team One or Perfect Game in Florida, and his coach told him, "Don't go, because American scouts don't care about Canadians." And I said, "Kiddo, if you can hit, they don't care where you're from. You can be from Neptune or wherever."
Great advice. That's a double play, and Brett Cecil gets out of it. Bob, we want to thank you for all the years. Both Pat and I had a chance to work with you as players, and you are now in the rightful spot of being in the Canadian Hall of Fame. Thanks for your time.
Thank you both very much.